Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
The world's most advanced cold wallet for the new generation of cryptocurrency lovers. Descent.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Alex. Thank you so much for making yourself available. I was saying to Tom before you came on, Alex, but I'll say it to you as well, right? This is my most favorite recording of every month. And I so appreciate both of you making yourself available because I know you're ridiculously busy. I'm going to have all the links to your materials, your channels and stuff, main link in the description below. And we are going to cover lots and lots of stuff because there is too much stuff. There is too much news happening. We need a moratorium just so we can catch up a little.
That's part of their plan, Rich. You know that.
Before we start,
keep us all off balance all the time. Right? That's the thing. So that's why I keep interrupting you because I'm doing my Davos impersonation right now. Sorry.
Okay. Well, before we start, and this bit may not be on on YouTube. I may have to cut this bit out. Right. Okay. So that public service announcement over. Financial fragility, because we could go all over the place. I just saw something about Weibo. The Chinese have said, get ready for a war. Nancy Pelosi is going to be going to Taiwan. And the United States government, not only can they not define what a woman is, they can't define a recession. Or they can say what isn't a recession. Right?
Well, whatever we say it isn't, right? Rich, I say this all the time. You guys know this. Like, I hate to beat a dead horse, but it's communism, so I don't really mind. Which is that communists always like to change the definitions of words. It's one of the hallmarks of it doesn't communism, collectivism, of those who are trying to obfuscate what they're trying to do will always change the definitions of words, and it is absolutely necessary. Look, to remember that depressions used to be two types of things. We either were an expansion or a depression. And then we got into Keynesian countercyclical economics, which then, by definition, made sure that we never had a depression ever again. Because, well, when the economy starts to contract, we print money and we add government spending into GDP. Because 50 years ago, when I was born, government spending wasn't part of GDP. It is now, because it wasn't even GDP back then; it was GNP.
Tom, I'm going to have to rein you both in. Okay, all right, stay on forward. There is a direction to this, right? But I agree. I'm a child protection social worker. I don't add to GDP. I don't really produce anything, but it counts anyway. But about terms and stuff like that, right? People are talking about talking about Alex Kruger saying that the Fed have now pivoted with their 0.75% basis point rate hike, right? But I want to start with financial fragility. That's what I was thinking about. Like the consequences of that, the noises that I'm hearing about what's coming our way and likely to happen in August. And then we can go wherever we go.
Well, I think financial fragility, you can't start the process without discussing what the ECB did last week and why they did it.
Tell us.
Well, they raised interest rates 50 basis points after, by the way, the CPI came in for the Eurozone completely in line with expectations. Now, when was the last time you ever saw the EU get a number like that right? The answer is never. And then that was the day before, or 2 days before, the Italian government fell. And then on Thursday, Lagarde, and then we start the whisper number, well, the ECB is not going to have to raise 50 basis points. And of course, what I said was, hey, if we expected Eurozone inflation to be 6.8%, and that's the reason why we're raising 50 basis points. Why weren't you telling us you were going to raise 50 basis points last week? Why is it all of a sudden you're going to raise 50 basis points? Obviously, because the Italian government fell on Wednesday, and that's what actually prompted your decision. And you knew the Italian government was going to fall on Monday, which is why you whispered that to Bloomberg to put out and start prepping the markets for it. And so once the ECB starts that process, but at the same time, of course, then they turn around and say, hey, we're going to do unlimited QE, where we're going to sell unlimited amounts of German debt and make them pay for bailing out the Italians, which at the same time, well, in 6 weeks, the Italians may not even be a part of the European Union because the brothers of Italy may come in and go, you know what, Italy, we're good, out. So
how can they raise interest rates and have unlimited QE? This makes no sense to me.
What do you mean?
I mean,
did I not mention they were commies? Like,
never mind. I think I'm right in saying this, Tom. You're the expert on this. I think that they raised interest rates by 50 basis points, which means that they went from minus 0.5 to 0.
Back to 0.
So then we actually have ECB interest rates back at 0. But if I can just intrude here, which is to say that this has, I think, been an astonishing period, because we're now seeing the whole crack the whole thing in Europe cracking. We've had a real interest rate rise in the United States. Now that is a real rise in interest rates. It's
Absolutely.
750 basis points. You can hear that they're all screaming here. Elizabeth Warren, all of these people, they're all furious about this. Be under no doubt at all. This is the death knell of the Euro project. At least this is what I personally think. Mm. Even the Financial Times is now saying that Lagarde is between a rock and a hard place. This is an absolute disaster for them. And of course, they don't know what to do. So, we're going to see. Now, there's one point where I'm going to just take one disagreement with what Tom said. The Italian government didn't fall. Draghi ran away. He ran away.
Fair enough.
He created a crisis, a political crisis in Italy over a waste incinerator in Rome. A vote which, Italian governments win and lose votes. He actually won the vote, remember? He won the vote. The 5-star movement was doing all kinds of funny things because they're really collapsing. They wanted to show that they're still around, so they made a big issue over some social benefits and that kind of thing. But Draghi won the vote. Nobody within the Italian political class thought that he would then say that he was resigning. And he did. He announced that he was going to resign. And then there's shock, horror amongst the political class. And I really do mean, when I say the political class, I mean the people who are on the side of the WEF, the EU, all of those sort of people. The president of Italy, Signor Mattarella, who is a dyed-in-the-wool WEF, EU, technocrat, apparatchik, call him whatever you like, persuaded Draghi to stay on until this vote of confidence on, a week later. Draghi wins the vote of confidence, even though by this time he's completely discredited. The other parties really don't want, the big parties, Salvini, the Forza Italia of Berlusconi, the 5-star movement, they're not voting for him. But no, they're not voting against him either. So he could still, in theory, have pulled it back if he'd really fought to stay as prime minister. And he walks out of the parliamentary chamber beforehand, before the vote is even cast. So he has deliberately torpedoed his own government. Now, why has he done this? I think it's because he knows perfectly well that shortly the Federal Reserve Board is going to raise interest rates by 750 basis points. Remember, Draghi himself has been a central banker. He's been the chair of the EU, of the ECB.
Yes.
And of course, what he knows, Lagarde knows. And I mean, if you don't think
if Lagarde consults with anyone outside of the halls of the ECB, it would be with Draghi, who was the president of the ECB for 10 years?
Exactly.
And remember, he was, so of course. And, but at the same time, like when I saw, Alex, that Lega, 5-star and Forza Italia all walked out of Parliament denying him a quorum, regardless. So, I mean, he had to walk out of Parliament because,
absolutely,
because they were just to deny him a quorum on anything else from there on out. So, absolutely. So now
he actually created that situation which arose, and the reason is he knows that the writing is on the wall. Whatever else he is, I mean, he's not Christine Lagarde. He's a much cleverer man than Christine Lagarde. He can see the drift and direction that things are taking. So Lagarde and he would have been in contact. Lagarde would have known that the Italian government was about to fall because Draghi would have told her what he was intending to do. It is inconceivable that he didn't. So this is what set the scene for that move by the ECB, so now I'm looking at the situation, right?
Tom, before you look at the situation, I just want to let people know the rest of this video is going to be on Odyssey. That's it. So you should join me there. Plus, also on Odyssey, there's a short video that I've posted about why Britain should not join the UK, because there's that conversation is brewing. Sorry, join the EU, because that conversation has been brewing. And no way. And one of the reasons is because the EU is breaking. Over to you, Tom.
Okay, so thinking about this, right, now that we have this situation, and Mattarella desperately wanted to try and keep this.